The invitation to dinner should have been my first warning. My mother never invites me anywhere unless she wants something. I'm June, and I built my magazine, Truth and Style, from nothing but determination and maxed out credit cards. That's probably why walking into Le Petit Bistrot that evening felt like a betrayal of everything I'd worked for. The maitre d' led me past tables of Manhattan's elite to a private corner where my mother sat, perfectly coiffed as always, next to a face I hadn't seen in 2 years. My ex-husband, Brent. My stomach dropped. "What is this?" "Darling, sit down," my mother, Lucille, purred. "We have wonderful news." I remained standing, my hands gripping the back of the empty chair. "Brent, what are you doing here?" He flashed that smile that once made my knees weak. Now it just made me nauseous. "Please, June, let's be adults about this." "Adults? Like when you emptied our joint account before serving me divorce papers?" "June!" My mother's voice carried that familiar sharp edge. "You're making a scene. Sit." I sat, but only because the waiters were starting to stare. A glass of wine appeared before me. They'd already ordered my favorite. Of course they had. "We wanted you to be the first to know," my mother began, reaching for Brent's hand. The diamond on her finger caught the light, and suddenly I couldn't breathe. "Brent and I are engaged." The wine glass froze halfway to my lips. "You're joking!" "Love knows no bounds," Brent said, squeezing my mother's hand. "Love knows no bounds," I repeated, my voice rising. "She's my mother." "Age is just a number," my mother said, batting her eyelashes at Brent. "We've found something special." "Something special?" I laughed, but it came out more like a bark. "You've found something all right. What is it this time, Brent? Her money? Her connections?" "Actually," he leaned forward, all business now, "we wanted to discuss your magazine." And there it was. The real reason for this ambush. "We'd love for Truth and Style to feature our engagement announcement," my mother said. "First exclusive rights. It would be wonderful publicity for everyone involved." I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. "You want me to announce in my magazine that my ex-husband is marrying my mother." "Think about it professionally," Brent urged. "Your readership would skyrocket. Everyone loves a good story." "A good story?" I grabbed my purse. "How's this for a story? Respected magazine editor maintains her dignity by telling her gold-digging ex-husband and narcissistic mother to go to hell." "June Parker!" My mother's face flushed red. "You sit back down this instant." "Or what, Mom? You'll ground me? Date my high school boyfriends?" A few heads turned our way. Brent stood, trying to play peacemaker. "Let's all calm down." "Don't you dare tell me to calm down," I hissed. "You divorced me, disappeared for 2 years, and now you're engaged to my mother? And you want me to publicize it?" "Darling," my mother reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "We're family. This could be good for all of us." "Family?" I laughed again, and this time it sounded slightly hysterical. "Family doesn't do this. Family doesn't betray each other for publicity." "You're being dramatic," Brent said. "This is a business opportunity. My magazine reports truth, Brent. Remember that word? And the truth is, you two deserve each other." I turned to leave, but my mother's words stopped me cold. "If you walk away now, you'll regret it. We can make things very difficult for you." I looked back at them. My mother with her perfectly arranged hair, Brent with his calculated smile. They thought they had me cornered. They thought wrong. "You know what? Go ahead. Try to make things difficult. But remember, I own a magazine. I have a platform. And unlike you two, I'm not afraid of the truth." As I walked out of Le Petit Bistrot, my phone buzzed. It was Emma, my best friend and head of marketing. "How bad was it?" she asked. "Remember when I said my life couldn't get any more complicated? That bad?" "Worse." I flagged down a taxi. "Meet me at the office. We need to talk strategy." "Strategy for what?" I watched my mother and Brent through the restaurant window, already huddled together, probably plotting their next move. "For war." "They're doing what?" Emma nearly spilled her coffee across my desk. It was midnight at the Truth and Style offices, and we'd been strategizing for hours. Getting married, I repeated, rubbing my temples. And they want me to announce it in the magazine like it's some kind of fairy tale romance. That's. Emma searched for words. That's actually insane. My phone buzzed again. Another message from my mother. I ignored it, just like the previous 20. June? My assistant poked her head in. Edith from Style Weekly is here to see you. I straightened in my chair. Edith, at this hour? Emma's eyes narrowed. She's probably already heard. Edith swept into my office like she owned it, her designer heels clicking against the hardwood floor. June, darling, I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by. At midnight? I asked. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, you know how it is in publishing. We never sleep. She perched herself on the edge of my desk. I heard the most fascinating rumor about your mother and your ex-husband. Whatever you're planning to publish, Edith, don't. But darling, it's such a juicy story. The betrayal, the scandal. Our readers would eat it up. I stood up, matching her height. My personal life isn't for sale. Everything's for sale in this business, she smirked. If you won't give me the story, I'll find it elsewhere. Your mother seemed quite eager to talk when I called her earlier. Emma stepped forward. That's enough, Edith. Oh, look who it is. The loyal sidekick. Edith's smile turned predatory. Tell me, Emma, how does it feel watching your best friend's life implode? Get out, I said quietly. You know what's coming, June. Better to control the narrative than become its victim. After Edith left, Emma locked the door behind her. She's right about one thing. We need to control this narrative. I collapsed back into my chair. How? My mother and Brent are probably selling their story to every tabloid in the city right now. Then we beat them at their own game. Emma pulled up a chair. What if we run a series on modern relationships? Focus on trust, betrayal, family dynamics. We don't mention your situation directly, but we own the conversation. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lewis, our investigative reporter. June, you need to see this. Now. Lewis burst into the office moments later, laptop in hand. Remember that tip we got last week about corporate fraud at Morris Industries? My mother's company. What about it? Look at these financial records. He turned the screen toward me. There's a pattern of suspicious transactions dating back 2 years, right around the time Brent disappeared. Emma leaned in. Are you saying, Brent's been embezzling from your mother's company? Lewis finished. But here's the kicker. These transactions? They're too sophisticated for one person. Someone on the inside had to help him. I felt the blood drain from my face. My mother. We need to verify everything, Lewis said. But if this is true, we could destroy them, Emma whispered. I stared at the numbers on the screen, remembering my mother's threat at dinner. We can make things very difficult for you. No, I said finally. We do this right. Get me concrete evidence, interview sources, follow every lead. June. Emma touched my arm. They're not showing you any mercy. Why should you? Because I built this magazine on truth, not revenge. I stood up, new determination flowing through me. If we're going to expose them, we do it with facts, not speculation. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Your mother and Brent aren't what they seem. Meet me tomorrow at Central Park, 7 a.m. Come alone. Emma read the message over my shoulder. It could be a trap, or it could be exactly what we need. I grabbed my coat. Get Lewis to dig deeper into those financial records. I need to know everything about my mother's company for the past 2 years. What are you going to do? I headed for the door, my mind already racing with possibilities. I'm going to find out just how deep this betrayal goes. June, Emma called after me. Be careful. People who have everything to lose are dangerous. I thought about my mother's diamond ring, Brent's calculated smile, and Edith's threats. So am I. As I left the office, another text came through, this time from my mother. Last chance to do this the easy way, darling. Don't make me remind you where you came from. I typed back 4 words. Bring it on, Mom. Central Park at dawn was eerily quiet. I sat on a bench near Bethesda Fountain, watching joggers pass by and wondering if I'd made a mistake coming here. Ms. Parker? A woman in her 50s approached, clutching a leather portfolio. I'm Margaret. I was your mother's executive assistant for 15 years. Was? Until last month, when I discovered something I wasn't supposed to see. She sat beside me, hands trembling slightly. Your mother fired me without severance, threatened to blacklist me if I talked. That sounds like her. Margaret pulled documents from her portfolio. 2 years ago, your mother started having private meetings with Brent. I thought nothing of it at first. He was her son-in-law after all. Ex-son-in-law, I corrected automatically. The meetings always happened after hours. They'd lock themselves in her office for hours. She handed me a stack of papers. Then I started noticing discrepancies in the accounts. I flipped through the documents, bank statements, emails, meeting minutes. These are internal company records. I made copies before they fired me. Look at the dates. My stomach lurched. The first transaction was dated 3 months before Brent served me divorce papers. My phone buzzed. Emma. June, you need to get back here, now. What's wrong? Just hurry. I thanked Margaret, took her contact information, and rushed to the office. Emma was waiting with Louis, both looking grim. What happened? Louis pointed to his computer screen. Remember those transactions we found? They're connected to offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. But here's the twist. They're not just stealing from your mother's company. What do you mean? They're running a Ponzi scheme, Emma said, using the company to attract investors, promising huge returns, then pocketing the money. That's why Brent's marrying her, Louis added. They need to keep up appearances, make everything look legitimate. I sank into a chair. How many people have they scammed? Dozens, maybe hundreds. Louis pulled up more documents. And some of these investors? There are advertisers. June? My assistant appeared at the door. Your mother's here. Before I could respond, Lucille swept into the office, Brent right behind her. Darling, we need to talk. I'm busy. Too busy for your mother? She noticed the documents on Louis's screen. What's all this? Research for an article, I said smoothly. About financial fraud? Brent's smile flickered. Sounds fascinating, but we're here about the engagement announcement. Have you reconsidered? Actually, I have something to ask you both. I picked up Margaret's documents. How long were you planning this? Before or after the divorce? Planning what? My mother's voice was sharp. The scheme, the fraud, the marriage. I stood up. Was any of it real, or was it all just business? Brent stepped forward. Be careful, June. You're making serious accusations. Am I? Because I have proof. Bank statements, witness testimonies, offshore accounts. You're bluffing, my mother snapped. Try me. I met her gaze. How do you think your investors would react if they knew where their money really went? You wouldn't dare, she hissed. I'm your mother. And I'm a journalist. Truth matters more than blood. Brent grabbed my arm. Think about what you're doing. We can make this worth your while. Emma moved between us. Take your hands off her. This isn't over, my mother warned, backing toward the door. You print one word about this, and I'll bury your magazine. After they left, Emma turned to me. You okay? No. I rubbed my arm where Brent had grabbed me. But I will be. June, Emma hesitated. There's something else you should know about Brent. What? Remember when I took that sabbatical last year? She swallowed hard. I was helping the FBI investigate a series of investment frauds. Brent was involved. He tried to recruit me, thinking I'd turn on you. The revelation hit me like a punch to the gut. Why didn't you tell me? The investigation was ongoing. I couldn't risk compromising it. She met my eyes. But now, we have everything we need to take them down. I looked at the evidence spread across my desk, proof of years of manipulation and betrayal. Print it. All of it? Every last word. I picked up my phone to call Margaret. It's time people knew the truth about Lucille and Brent. As I dialed, another text came through from my mother. "You're making a mistake, darling. Blood is thicker than ink." I typed back, "So is justice." The cease and desist letter arrived at 8 a.m., delivered by a stern-faced lawyer in an expensive suit. "Your mother is prepared to sue for defamation," he stated, placing the document on my desk. "She's willing to settle out of court if you drop the story." I didn't even open the envelope. "Tell her I'll see her in court." After he left, Emma rushed in. "Their lawyers are calling our advertisers, threatening them if they don't pull their contracts. How many have we lost?" "3 so far." She checked her tablet. "But Lewis found something. Show her." Lewis appeared with a stack of printouts. "Remember how we thought the fraud started 2 years ago? It goes back further, way further." He spread photos across my desk. My wedding day, 5 years ago. In one image, my mother was speaking with Brent, champagne in hand. "Look at the date," Lewis pointed. "3 days after this, your mother opened the first offshore account. She was planning this before you even got married." The room spun. I gripped the edge of my desk, remembering that day. How happy I'd been. How proud my mother had seemed. "June?" Emma touched my shoulder. "There's more." My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. "Hello? Ms. Parker? This is Detective Roberts. We need to talk about your mother and Mr. Morris." 20 minutes later, I sat in a conference room at the police station, staring at surveillance photos. "We've been building a case against them for months," Detective Roberts explained. "But they're careful. We need someone on the inside." "And you want that someone to be me?" "You're our best shot at exposing this operation." My phone buzzed with a text from Brent. "Let's talk, just us, for old time's sake." "They're getting desperate," Emma whispered. She'd insisted on coming with me. "This could be our chance." I showed the detective Brent's message. "What do you need me to do?" "Meet with him, wear a wire, get him talking about the scheme." Back at the office, Lewis had more news. "I found a connection between your mother's accounts and a series of failed businesses. She's been running this scam for decades." How did I not see it? I collapsed into my chair. "My own mother." "Because she didn't want you to," Emma said firmly. "She used your love against you." My assistant knocked. "June, your mother's on line 1. She says it's urgent." I put the call on speaker. "What do you want?" "Darling, this has gone far enough." Her voice was honey-sweet. "Come to dinner tonight. We can work this out as a family." "Family?" I laughed. "Was it family when you planned to scam me before I even said I'd do?" A pause. "I don't know what you think you found." "I found everything, Mom. The accounts, the failed businesses, the victims, all of it." "Then you know what we're capable of." Her voice hardened. "Drop the story or watch your precious magazine burn." "You taught me something important, Mom." "About power." I leaned forward. "The truth is the greatest power of all." "You ungrateful little—" I hung up. Emma squeezed my hand. "You okay?" "No." I stood up, grabbing my coat. "But I will be. Tell Detective Roberts I'll wear the wire. Set up the meeting with Brent." "June, wait." Lewis called from his desk. "Look at this." He pulled up an email chain between my mother and Brent, dated just before our divorce. "Make sure she signs everything over," my mother had written. "Once the accounts are empty, serve the papers." "Don't worry," Brent replied. "She trusts me completely." My hands shook as I read their casual discussion of destroying my life. "Print it," I told Lewis. "Print it all." "The lawyers," he started. "Can't stop the truth." I checked my phone. Another text from Brent, suggesting a meeting place. "Tell Detective Roberts I'll meet Brent tomorrow at noon." Emma grabbed her purse. "I'm coming with you." "No." I turned to her. "I need you here, running the magazine. If something goes wrong—" "Nothing will go wrong," she insisted. "We've got them cornered." My phone buzzed one final time. My mother again. "You're just like me, darling. Willing to destroy family for success." I typed back. "No, Mom. I'm nothing like you. I'm better. Tomorrow, I would face Brent wearing a wire. Tomorrow, I would help bring down their empire of lies. But tonight, I had a magazine to run and a truth to tell. Let's get to work, I told my team. We have a story to write. The wire itched against my skin as I walked into the coffee shop. Brent was already there, looking perfectly relaxed in his tailored suit. June. He stood to kiss my cheek. I stepped back. Still angry, I see. Can you blame me? Actually, yes. He stirred his coffee. You're being unreasonable. This could benefit all of us. Detective Roberts' voice crackled in my earpiece. Keep him talking about the business. Like it benefited your other investors? I asked, sitting down. His smile tightened. I don't know what you think you know. My phone buzzed. Emma had sent a screenshot of Brent's latest Twitter post. Sad to see Truth and Style magazine resorting to tabloid journalism. Family matters should stay private. Nice tweet, I said, showing him my phone. Trying to discredit me already? It's just business, June. Nothing personal. Was it business when you emptied our accounts? He leaned forward. Your mother and I have powerful friends. One word from us, and your advertisers will run. Your distributors will drop you. Your magazine will be finished. Is that what happened to your other victims? You threatened them into silence? His eyes narrowed. Careful, June. My phone lit up again. Lewis this time. Twitter's exploding. Dozens of people coming forward with stories about Brent and Lucille's scams. I turned my phone so Brent could see the growing thread of accusations. Looks like your victims are done being silent, I said. He grabbed my wrist. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Let go of me. We tried to be nice. His grip tightened. We offered you a chance to profit from this, but you had to play hero. Mr. Morris? Detective Roberts' voice cut through the cafe. Remove your hand from Ms. Parker. Brent's face went pale as officers approached our table. You wore a wire? He released my wrist. You actually wore a wire? Nothing personal, I echoed his words. Just business. My phone exploded with notifications. Emma was calling. June, get back here now, she said when I answered. Your mother just showed up with her entire legal team. I arrived at the office to find my mother holding court in the conference room, surrounded by expensive suits. There's my daughter, she announced. The one trying to destroy her own family. Family, I laughed. Is that what you call stealing from your daughter's husband before they're even married? Everything I did for us. She stood, perfectly composed. You were always so naive. Someone had to protect our interests. Our interests? You stole from me. I made you stronger. She smiled that familiar cold smile. And now look at you, finally playing the game properly. This isn't a game, Mom. These are people's lives. People are pawns, darling. I taught you that. No, I stepped closer. You taught me what not to be. Her smile faltered. Your magazine won't survive this fight. Maybe not. I pulled out my phone, showing her the trending Twitter thread. But neither will you. Social media? She scoffed. Against my lawyers? Against the truth. I nodded to Emma, who started the projector. On the screen, Margaret appeared, holding up documents. Then more faces. Dozens of former employees, investors, all telling their stories of fraud and betrayal. What is this? My mother demanded. Your legacy, I said. Every victim, every scheme, every lie, all going live on our website in an hour. You wouldn't dare. Watch me. She grabbed her phone, furiously dialing. Brent, where are you? We need to... Her face went slack. What do you mean, arrested? I showed her the police photo of Brent in handcuffs. Like I said, Mom, the truth always comes out. I'll destroy you, she hissed. No. Emma stepped forward. You won't. Because while you were here threatening us, our story went viral. Every major news outlet is picking it up. My mother's lawyers exchanged nervous glances. It's over, Mom. I opened the conference room door. And this time, you can't buy your way out. As security escorted them out, my phone buzzed one last time. Detective Roberts. We have enough to arrest Lucille too. Officers are on their way. I watched through my office window as police cars pulled up outside. Are you okay? Emma asked softly. No, I admitted, but I will be. June? Lewis called from his desk. You might want to see this. On his screen, our story's view count was skyrocketing. Below it, thousands of comments poured in, all saying the same thing. Thank you for telling the truth. The numbers are insane, Emma announced, bursting into my office. 2 million views in 24 hours. Every major network wants an interview. I barely heard her, watching the live coverage of my mother's arrest on the office TV. She looked smaller somehow, being led away in handcuffs, her perfect makeup smeared. June? Emma waved her hand in front of my face. CNN is on line 1. Tell them no comment. I turned off the TV. We let the story speak for itself. My phone lit up. Edith from Style Weekly. I answered on speaker. Darling, I must say I'm impressed, she purred. Taking down your own mother? That's deliciously cold. What do you want, Edith? To offer you a deal. Merge our magazines. Together, we'd be unstoppable. Emma shook her head violently. Thanks, but no thanks, I said. Truth and Style stays independent. Don't be foolish. Your mother's lawyers will bury you in lawsuits. You'll need backing. Actually, Lewis appeared with a stack of papers. We won't. Look what just came in. He spread documents across my desk. Statements from investors, former employees, even other journalists, all offering to testify against my mother and Brent. Is that all? Edith asked, hearing the rustling papers. That's all, I said, hanging up. June! My assistant rushed in. You need to see this. She pulled up a video on her tablet. It was Brent, speaking from jail. His designer suit replaced by orange jumpsuit. June Parker ruined my life, he was saying. She's just like her mother, manipulative, ruthless. Turn it off, I said. No, wait, Emma pointed. Look at the comments. Below the video, thousands of responses flooded in. We see through your lies. Truth and Style exposed the real you. June Parker is a hero. My phone buzzed. Detective Roberts again. Ms. Parker, your mother's requesting to see you. Tell her no. She says she has information about other victims, people we don't know about yet. I looked at Emma, who nodded. Go. We'll handle things here. The police station was chaos. Reporters camped outside, cameras flashing as I walked in. My mother sat in an interrogation room, her designer outfit wrinkled, her makeup faded. Darling, she attempted her usual smile. You look tired. What do you want? To make a deal. She leaned forward. I know things, June. Things that could help your magazine grow even bigger. More victims. More stories. More scandals. Things that would make your little exposé look like a gossip column. Detective Roberts watched through the two-way mirror as I sat down. And what do you want in return? Your support at my hearing. Tell them I cooperated, that I showed remorse. I studied her face, the face that had lied to me my entire life. Did you ever love me, or was I just another investment? For the first time, her mask cracked. Everything I did was for yourself, I finished. Always for yourself. I made you strong. No. I stood up. I made myself strong, despite you, not because of you. Back at the office, Emma was waiting with news. 3 major publishers called. They want to turn the story into a book. No, I said, sitting at my desk. June, we stick to what we do best, telling the truth. Lewis rushed in. You need to see this. Your mother's company records just went public. There are hundreds of victims, going back decades. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Thank you for exposing them. They took everything from me. Now I can finally fight back. More messages poured in. Victims finding their voice, their courage. What do we do? Emma asked. I looked at my team. Emma, who'd stood by me through everything. Louis, who'd dug until he found the truth. My assistant, who'd worked endless hours to help expose the fraud. We do our job, I said. We tell their stories. All of them. My phone buzzed one last time. Detective Roberts. Your mother's talking. Named names. This goes deeper than we thought. You've started something big. I thought about my mother in her prison jumpsuit, Brent's desperate video, all their carefully constructed lies crumbling. Emma, I called. Get the team together. We have work to do. What's the headline? She asked. I looked at the growing list of victims reaching out for help, for justice, for their voices to be heard. The headline is Truth Matters. I stood up. And we're just getting started. The courthouse steps were packed with reporters as my mother and Brent arrived for their preliminary hearing. I watched from across the street as they climbed the steps, no longer the confident power couple they'd once been. Ready for this? Emma stood beside me, clutching a folder of evidence. As I'll ever be. Inside, the courtroom hummed with tension. My mother's lawyers had arranged a press conference before the hearing, one last attempt to control the narrative. My client, her lead attorney announced, has been the victim of a vindictive campaign by her own daughter. Actually, I stepped forward, Emma right behind me. I have something to say. The room erupted in camera flashes. My mother's face tightened. June, Brent warned, think carefully about what you're doing. Oh, I have. I nodded to Emma, who started distributing documents to the press. These are statements from 32 new victims who've come forward, people whose lives you destroyed. Lies, my mother hissed. Really? I turned to the crowd. Margaret? My mother's former assistant stood up, then another person and another. Soon, half the courtroom was standing, all victims, all with stories to tell. What is this? Brent's lawyer demanded. Justice, I said simply. My mother grabbed the microphone. These people are opportunists. They're… Sarah Thompson, a woman called out. You stole my retirement fund. David Miller, you bankrupted my family business. Rachel Foster, my children lost their college funds because of you. Name after name, story after story. My mother's composed facade cracked as the truth echoed through the courtroom. Enough! She screamed. This is all June's fault. She's trying to destroy me because she's jealous, because she could never measure up. Actually, Detective Roberts stepped forward. We have evidence that proves otherwise. He played an audio recording, my mother's voice, clear and cold. Of course I knew the investments were fake. Those people were stupid enough to trust us. They deserved to lose everything. The recording continued, detailing years of deliberate fraud. Brent's face went pale. You recorded our private conversations? He sputtered. No, my mother whispered. The hotel room. They bugged the hotel room. Where you planned your next scam, Detective Roberts confirmed. Right after Ms. Parker wore the wire. Brent lunged toward me. You set us up! Security grabbed him as cameras flashed. My mother stood frozen, watching her carefully constructed world collapse. Lucille, her lawyer urged, don't say another word. But she was beyond hearing. I built an empire, she shrieked. I took their worthless money and made something magnificent, and my own daughter betrayed me for what? Some pathetic notion of justice? No, Mom. I met her eyes. For the truth, the thing you never understood. She lunged for the evidence folder Emma was holding. In the chaos, papers scattered across the floor. Bank statements, witness testimonies, proof of decades of fraud. Order! The judge's gavel cracked through the chaos. Remove the defendants. As security led them away, my mother turned back. I made you who you are. No, I called after her. You showed me who I never wanted to be. Outside, reporters swarmed us. Ms. Parker, how does it feel to take down your own mother? Did you know about the fraud during your marriage? Will Truth and Style continue covering the story? Emma pushed through the crowd. Ms. Parker's magazine will continue doing what it's always done, telling the truth. My phone buzzed. Louis, you need to see this. Every major network is running the story. The victims are speaking out everywhere. Another text followed from Detective Roberts. More arrests coming. Your mother's empire is falling. You did good, kid. I watched as police cars pulled away, carrying my mother and Brent to jail. Emma squeezed my hand. You okay? Look. I pointed to the courthouse steps, where victims were hugging each other, sharing stories, finding strength in numbers. Ms. Parker? A young reporter approached. What happens now? I thought about all the stories still untold, all the truths still hidden. Now? I smiled. Now we keep doing our job. We keep telling the truth. Even when it hurts? She asked. Especially then. I turned to Emma. Let's get back to work. We have a magazine to run. As we left, I heard my mother's words echoing from a news broadcast. I built an empire. She had built an empire, one of lies, manipulation, and greed. But watching it crumble, I felt only relief. Because sometimes, destruction is just another word for justice. And justice, like truth, was worth fighting for. The envelope arrived on my desk without warning. Prison stationery, my mother's elegant handwriting. Emma watched as I turned it over in my hands. You don't have to read it, she said. Yes, I do. Inside was a single page. Dearest June, the truth, since you're so fond of it. I'm proud of you. Not for destroying what I built, for building something stronger. Your magazine's latest issue is everywhere in here. The women in my block pass it around like contraband. They especially loved the piece about financial independence. Ironic, isn't it? Brent took a plea deal yesterday. He's testifying against everyone. The empire is truly fallen. You won. I won't ask for forgiveness. We both know better. But I will tell you this. Watching you fight back, watching you stand your ground, it was like looking in a mirror. Only you reflected something better. The investigators found more accounts. I've instructed my lawyers to return everything to the victims. It won't fix what I broke, but perhaps it's a start. Your mother, Lucille. June? Emma's voice pulled me back. The interview's here. Sarah Thompson walked in, our first victim to go public, now leading a support group for others. Thank you for featuring our story, she said, sitting down. More people come forward every day. That's why we're here. I gestured to the magazine cover on my desk. Rising from fraud, survivors share their stories. It's not just about the money anymore, Sarah said. It's about healing, about finding our voices. My phone buzzed. Detective Roberts. Thought you'd want to know. Brent's testimony led to 12 more arrests. Financial Crimes Task Force is calling it the Truth and Style Effect. Ms. Parker? My assistant poked her head in. The Journalism Awards Committee is on line 1. I waved her off. Take a message. Still avoiding the spotlight? Emma teased. The story was never about me. Speaking of stories, Lewis rushed in, laptop open. Remember those offshore accounts your mother mentioned? They're being liquidated. Money's flowing back to the victims. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She really did it? She did. I handed her my mother's letter. People can surprise you. June, Emma called from her desk. You need to see this. On her screen, a video was trending. Victims gathering outside the courthouse, holding copies of Truth and Style. We're not victims anymore, one woman declared. We're survivors, and we're done being silent. My phone lit up. Edith from Style Weekly. Darling, I admit defeat. Your circulation numbers are extraordinary. The offer to merge still stands. I typed back. Still not interested. Truth isn't for sale. Ms. Parker? A young intern appeared. The new issue's ready for final approval. The cover showed a mosaic of faces. All survivors. All standing tall. The headline read, Breaking the Silence, a Community Rises. Perfect, I said. Run it. Emma studied my face. You okay? Better than okay. I picked up my mother's letter. She thought she was building an empire of money. Instead, she taught me to build something stronger. Truth, Emma smiled. Community, I corrected. Look. Through my office window, the magazine's main floor buzzed with energy. Survivors turned advocates worked alongside journalists, sharing stories, building connections. What started as an exposé had become a movement. My phone chimed one last time. A text from Margaret, my mother's former assistant. "You did it, June. You turned their weapon into our shield." I thought about my mother in prison, reading our magazine, about Brent, facing the consequences of his choices, about all the lives they'd tried to break. "Emma," I called, "get the team together." "New story?" "Always." I smiled. The truth never stops. As my team gathered, I looked at them. Emma, who never wavered. Lewis, who dug until he found answers. Sarah, who turned pain into purpose. And all the others who chose truth over silence. "What's next, boss?" Lewis asked. I held up the latest issue. "We keep building. We keep telling stories. We keep turning victims into survivors." "And your mother's letter?" Emma asked softly. I folded it carefully, tucked it into my desk. Some truths you keep close, not because they hurt, but because they remind you how far you've come. "Let's get to work," I said. "We have more stories to tell." Outside my office, phones rang, keyboards clicked, and voices rose. The sound of truth being born. Not in whispers or threats, but in the clear, strong voices of people who'd found their power. My mother had built an empire of lies. I'd built something better, a home for truth. And this time, the foundation would hold.